Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Sapiens Forward. We're going to be playing some more AI Dungeon. So let's check it out. If you haven't seen AI Dungeon before, this is an online game made by Latitude Games. This is pretty compelling. It's been around for a few years. It uses AI systems, AI large language models to dynamically generate stories that you play and are a part of. It's really neat. If you've played any, if you're old school like me, if you've played any of the text-based MUDs, stands for multi-user dungeon from decades ago, there's some still around, right? It feels kind of like that. It's pretty neat, but it's an evolving story, and you get to shape it. And here we go. I've got one going. Been playing this for a few sessions. The campaign is called Chosen. It's kind of like being a part of like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of tabletop thing, but in this case, I'm playing solo, and the Dungeon Master is essentially the AI system. But you can't play multiplayer. I haven't done that yet, but hope to check that out at some point. But I've been playing this for a few sessions. This is the Chosen campaign. Let's take a look. Pick up where we left off. All right, I think it actually might be kind of nice just to go through some of the features of this. Um, so the theme of this particular campaign, Chosen, I am this young man who lives in a village that is part of a kingdom. It's kind of like Arthurian type legends sort of vibe to it. Anyway, this village and this kingdom of Brithholm is being raided and attacked by this regent, Ethelred of Oromane, and created this whole kind of ongoing saga. Anyway, come upon this rune sword that didn't know it had magical powers, and essentially trying to rescue my parents and find out how to use this sword and find some companions along the way on this quest of sorts, developing my capabilities, getting some of these companions like Mordred and Sir Galahad who are going to help me discover how to use some of these artifacts I'm discovering with the ultimate goal to ensure the safety of my family and the kingdom from this tyrant Ethelred. So that's kind of like the backstory. Um, and so AI Dungeon is it's a pretty neat system. So there's some different kind of technical components here. One of which, since I have a premium account, there's an automatic story summarization capability. So it's keeping track of the story as we go. Some of my journeys and some of these events that have occurred. I've discovered an ancient crystal castle within which I found a crystal orb, and that is linked with the rune sword. So I have these artifacts. Encountered some these strange figures called the Old Ones after going through a portal inside of this castle. So different kinds of characters I've interacted with and found along the way. And keeping track of some of the things that I've been doing that kind of fit into the plot. So ultimately I've been finding various individuals who can help me learn how to use these artifacts. Ultimately the goal of trying to harness this power to help the kingdom that I'm a part of. It's kind of keeping track. So this is some of the neat components of the system here, where it's keeping track of some of this information as the story goes. There's also these story cards. I mean, these are really nice. These I created these myself, but these were in a sense that I going through the story identified certain components of it that I want to make sure that the AI system keeps track of. I think in the future the system will be much more dynamic and automatic, but essentially there's different locations and items and characters in the story that are this is probably an extra one that are key to it. So, for instance, one of the first characters I interacted with was Sinethrith, my sister, as my character. And these story cards, they help the AI system keep track of key components of the story, and whether it's individuals or locations, so that it maintains continuity. Um, and if you understand anything about how some of these large language models work, there's the idea of the context, which is the body of tokens and text and content that it's processing and working with at any one time. and there's limits to how much of that you can work with. The larger the context, the more memory and processing um, compute that is needed to work with that, and it'll be generate new content based on that. And so for those using like the free version of this, like the contexts are much smaller. And because of that, and there's also not this memory system, which is kind of a more, what would you say, premium feature of it. It eventually, as you're playing with these campaigns, and then like the free kind of entry version of this of AI Dungeon starts to lose track of maybe key components potentially. It has a limited memory. So the memory system and these story cards are a really key component here to help keep track of stuff. So some of these factions I've interacted with, some locations like Oramain and Brithholm, some of the characters I interacted with like Mordred and Sir Galahad who are following along, an enemy, Roger Montfaucon, um, and locations, so like Ethelred strongholds. So this is kind of where I'm at in the story at the moment. So we have journeyed into the north mountains of Brithholm to seek out allies who can help me and my character understand how to use and learn the power of these artifacts. And having sought that out, found more artifacts, and like this. Oh, I'll list them here. So I got the crystal orb and the rune sword, which are tied together. The rune sword is interesting because it almost seems like it's got kind of like a sentience to it. But I had that from the beginning of the story, and that's when it kind of revealed, accidentally was revealed that it had this power to it. And there's the crystal orb, which we discovered in this ancient crystal castle on our journey north, running away from these raiders who were attacking us. We stumbled upon this castle and explored it, and found this crystal orb and determined that the orb and the rune sword are kind of bound together, and this orb helps focus these powers. So some of these companions of mine, Mordred, who has this knowledge, he's an older guy, has this knowledge and history of understanding the old gods, and these artifacts seem to be connected to these old gods, was helping me helping my character find information and learn how to use these. And then there was this old grimoire, which was found more recently in the story, which essentially is kind of like a spell book. It's one of the things I was doing in my last session, and we found this tome while exploring this other ancient castle, and we found an orrery inside this castle. So if you don't know what an orrery is, it's kind of like a device, a mechanical sort of device to depict and display the passing of celestial bodies. So that might be like a little device to show like planets going around the solar system. And within this, found as part of this orrery was this blackened tome, which had celestial runes and all kinds of magical runes in it. And so with the help of Mordred, we were able to decipher some of these and learn that essentially some of these runes were to bestow us the ability to do some like elemental magic. So in this part of the story, where we kind of left off, we went out and were practicing, how to do some of these spells, causing, invoking flames that come about, and to create ice and draw up the wind. And then even further, trying out something, some stuff more interesting, like causing some meteorites to appear in the sky, kind of like owing to the whole idea of like being celestial. So that was pretty interesting. So kind of we're in the story on this quest northward to seek out allies and power and to learn how to use some of these tools. We've gone from some of this humble villager boy, young man who's kind of thrust into this conflict and trying to help save his family, to now he's got some pretty powerful magical artifacts, rune sword, this crystal orb to really attune oneself for this power, and this essentially like a book of spells, of elemental spells. So feeling pretty good of what we can do. And so on the way towards this journey in the north, we did run into some enemy Oramain knights. So these are essentially kind of like these raiders who are just kind of pillaging and attacking the kingdom of Brithholm, where we're at. And in the beginning of the story, that's where it started out. and our village, it was under attack by some of these knights, and managed to outwit them and escape and free our parents from this raid. But further along during this journey, we ran into some of these knights here and there and fought them. And one of the most recent encounters, we kind of used a little bit of subterfuge and with the help of some of the more skilled fighters in the group, so Sir Galahad, who is also an Orme knight, but he is one of the loyalists to the original king. So he is fighting against the tyranny of the regent, Ethelred. Sir Galahad is kind of our tank, and thinking in that sort of RPG sense. And we've got Mordred the Archer. We managed to take out some of them and capture them. And when searching them, we found a few key things. One of which was information about the stronghold of Ethelred, where it's at, and some of the defenses there. So that's pretty key. And also one of the guys that we captured was it Roger Montfaucon? He's here in the list of characters. There it is. Yeah. So he seems to be kind of a higher up figure in the entourage of the tyrant regent Ethelred. And we managed to take a signet ring from him, essentially got his initials. So my thoughts are essentially like that is going to be something that could be really useful to sort of get our way potentially to sneak inside of the stronghold of Ethelred. At least we've got information about the castle. We've got some materials about how is the disposition of that castle, not stronghold, and what the defenses are. And now we've got these really powerful weapons. We're learning how to use them. I think we're in a really good place now to essentially continue that journey back down south to the enemy stronghold and try and maybe we take this fight to them. I mean, I think that's ultimately where the story is going. I mean, if I think of like the overall arc of what kind of the goal is initially to rescue my parents and try and end this threat to our village, to our part of the kingdom. And now it seems like we've really got the capability to maybe put an end to that, or at least see where that could go. So that's where we're at in the story. So where it left off, I was asking Mordred if he thinks we're ready to continue south towards the enemy stronghold after we've been doing this practice. And Mordred says, after studying with a thoughtful expression, I believe you've made significant progress and gained invaluable knowledge, but the path ahead remains treacherous and unpredictable. Continual practice and preparation will serve us well, though I sense that time grows short. We must ultimately trust our instincts, and when the moment arrives, act decisively. Are you prepared to journey southward towards the enemy stronghold? Well, Mordred, that's a non-answer if I've ever seen one. So that's all right. Yes, he put that question back to me. I think it's time to go. So I'm going to take a turn. I'm going to do, when I'm doing, we can do, say, story, or see. I like to, even when I'm saying things, I like to use them as do. And when working with AI Dungeon and Latitude Games definitely points this out, it's very helpful to provide very verbose and specific responses to the system, help it give a better understanding of what you're trying to accomplish or what you're trying to see what could happen. If you're very vague or very short, it doesn't give it a lot to work with. So if it seems like I'm a bit pedantic and just really carry on quite a bit, that is ultimately what I'm trying to avoid, is the system not really getting a sense for where we like to do. Being thoughtful and expressive in how I communicate back to the system is so beneficial. So here we go. It's like, tell Mordred, tell Mordred it is time to continue our journey southward towards the enemy stronghold. All right, let's go. I nod, meeting Mordred's gaze. I'm prepared. We must trust in our abilities and what we have learned. Let's journey southward towards the enemy's stronghold. With determination, you and your companions set forth from the Crystal Castle, your spirits buoyed by your newfound abilities and the strength of your camaraderie. As you make your way south, you begin to encounter remnants of Ethelred's forces, laying waste to villages and towns with brutal efficiency. You press on, your resolve only solidifying as you witness the tyrant's destructive grip on the kingdom. One fateful day, your group stumbles upon a battlefield littered with fallen warriors, both loyalist and Oromane. Amongst the chaos, you spot a wounded yet defiant figure propping up against a boulder, bloodied and weak. Well, we don't really know what side this figure, this person, this wounded person is on, and I would like to find out, one way or another. If it's somebody that's more on our side of the loyalists, I want to help them. And if it's somebody on the enemy side, well, I mean, maybe we're not bloodthirsty people here, not in this story. So maybe we can provide them some comfort, but more so, let's see if we can get some information on what happened here. So, how do I want to put this? So let's say head towards the wounded person and determine which faction they are a part of. Which faction they are from. Let's see who. You approach the wounded figure, your heart heavy with concern. As you draw closer, you can see the individual's armor adorned with the emblem of Oromane. Alright. So, not a friend. Maybe not a friend. Sir Galahad was in the Oromane Knights, but he's a loyalist, so we'll see. Your grip on the rune sword tightens, but you push aside any prejudices and focus on offering aid. Kneeling beside the warrior, you notice the grave injuries they've sustained. You remove your cloak and gently wrap it around their wounds, staunching the flow of blood. Your companions, Galahad and Mordred, keep watch, ensuring no threats approach. The warrior's eyes flutter open, revealing a fierce determination despite their weakened state. Who are you? They murmur, their voice strained. Alright. Well, the guy's a good guy. We jump in there to try and help him. So let's see. We'll take a turn here. Tell the injured warrior who I am and ask the warrior who he is and what side he fights for. Still want to figure out if he's a friend or foe here. It's not clear yet, but very important. You respond, I am Apollo, a peasant from Morganhold in Brithholm. So Morganhold's the village we're from. Brithholm is the kingdom that village resides in. And I think ultimately Brithholm is kind of a part of Oromane. These are my companions, Mordred and Galahad. We fight against the tyranny of Regent Ethelred. But you, who are you, and whom do you serve? The warrior studies you for a moment, their gaze intense. I am Renald, a knight from Oromane. I once served under Duke Robert, but now I'm not so sure. Your actions, they speak louder than any banner or creed. Renald's words hang in the air, a testament to the complexities of loyalty and morality in a time of strife. One thing I haven't tried out yet with this tome of celestial runes and the orb and the rune sword is like, do we have some kind of healing powers? That's something I haven't tried out yet. Didn't really have the need to. But here we are. Here's a guy who seems like he's pretty decent. Maybe he's somebody who can be swayed to join our group, but I mean, he's hurt pretty bad. You know, maybe we can help him. So, let's ask Mordred about this. Ask Mordred if he thinks we can use the power. of the orb and runes to heal Renaud's wounds. What can Mordred tell us? He's kind of my go-to in this story because he's an archer of the old gods. He's an old guy. Seems like he's part of kind of a cult of these old gods, and he seems to have a lot of wisdom and knowledge about how some of these artifacts work. Mordred considers your question, studying Renaud's injuries. It is possible, but the power to heal is more complex than harnessing meteor showers or channeling elemental forces. Healing magic demands a deep understanding of life forces and balance. He glances at the orb and rune sword. Let us attempt to ease his pain and speed his recovery while we tend to his wounds. I will guide you. You sit cross-legged beside Renaud, and with Mordred's assistance begin a lengthy and intricate incantation to tap into the healing energies contained within the crystal orb. Soft, pulsing light emanates from the orb, illuminating your faces as the incantation continues. With each word and gesture, you direct the celestial power towards Renaud, hoping to alleviate his suffering and mend his injuries. All right. So I like where this is going. We're giving it a try. We'll see if we can heal this guy. I think it's the right way to go. He's not clearly a member of the loyalist group, but actions speak louder than words. He seems like he's impressed by what we're about and how we came to help him. Sometimes, you never know in what way loyalty can be born. All right, so I want to add a few story cards here. Morganhold, I don't think I added that one yet, the village, and then Renaud. So I'm going to go here to story cards. Now, these aren't added automatically, but the generation of the content is, for the most part. So what I do is I indicate Renaud and generate new entry with AI. It's going to go through the current context and find information that is relevant to that and generate it. And now we have kind of this guy's very basic backstory and how he's fit into the story so far. That does not look right. And so this is an interesting thing here. So I just put the name, but it's kind of confusing it with my character. That's how it goes sometimes, right? So this is kind of an interesting wrinkle with how the system can work. So I probably want to give it a little more specificity. So Renaud, a knight from Ormain. Let's try that again. Let's see how it does with that. Okay. So, I think this is a little bit more in keeping with who this person is. Renaud, a knight from Ormain, serves Regent Ethelred with unwavering loyalty. Unlike typical knights, he secretly sympathizes with the loyalists and aids them subtly. So, he's got unwavering loyalty, but he's sympathizing with these loyalists and aids them. I don't know if those two statements really jive together, but that's okay. Protect his younger brother, imprisoned by Ethelred. So this is interesting. This is kind of a neat kind of backstory it's generating for this guy. Some of the other knights, they apparently suspect him and that he might be aiding the loyalists. A complex and pivotal figure. Okay, all right. This is cool. All right. So we're definitely going to want to keep working with this guy and figure out how he fits into this. Somebody closer to the court of Ethelred and what's going on there and the machinations inside that faction of the Ormain Knights will certainly be helpful. So we'll see what we can do with this guy. And I want to add one more card, Morganhold. So this will be a location. And again, the reason why I want to add these, why I think it's useful, is it kind of solidifies. Well, that's I didn't expect it. It auto-generated one. Nope. Not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a location. But the it kind of solidifies some of the various components of the story so that they have more stronger continuity throughout as the story is being generated, which is very helpful, especially as you bump up into those limits of that context window of how much information it's able to process. So it's using the memory system and these story cards to kind of retrieve information about the story and draw those in as it continues to develop the story. So this was the town that we came from. Well, just interesting. You're not really doing anything now. It probably been something more I could have done with that at the beginning of the story. But that's okay. Alright, so I've done that. So we've helped Renaud, or we're trying to. Let's see, as we are tending to, as we are healing, I really hope we're like actually healing and not just bandaging this guy's up. Renaud's wounds. Ask him about the battle that occurred here. So find out what happened here. You ask Renaud about the battle that occurred here, and he recounts a harrowing tale. Our forces were caught off guard by Ethelred's army. They knew our strategies and weaknesses. It was as if they had an informant among us, or were guided by some otherworldly power. We fought hard, but were overwhelmed. His voice trails off, weighed down by exhaustion and loss. As the orb's soothing light surrounds Renaud, his breaths grow stronger and more rhythmic. Eventually, his eyelids droop, succumbing to much-needed rest. Carefully, your group tends to his remaining injuries, ensuring his wounds are bound and cleaned to minimize infection and further damage. Your journey continues under the cover of night, following a waning moon that grows faintly behind wisps of clouds. I want to see if we add him to our group. Ask Renaud if he will join our party and aid us in our quest to stop the tyranny of the regent Ethelred. I hope he says yes. You ask Renaud if he will join your party and aid you in your quest to stop the tyranny of Regent Ethelred. He hesitates, gazing into the distance as if weighing his options. I've seen the horrors inflicted by Ethelred's forces, he says finally, and have questioned the orders of my own commanders. I will join you, not as a knight of Auramane, but as an ally fighting for justice and an end to this senseless war. With a newfound sense of unity, you and your companions, Apollo, Mordred, Galahad, Renaud, press on through the kingdom of Brithholm. Along the way, you encounter scattered remnants of Ethelred's forces, as well as desperate peasants struggling to survive. Alright. Nice. So now I've got two knights, pretty skilled archer, and myself with a rune sword and magical powers. I mean, it's a pretty substantial party we've got here. Let's see if we can help some of these peasants. See if there is any way we can assist these struggling peasants. And we're here to help, not just fight people, but there might be more we can do. You and your companions approach a group of struggling peasants huddled around a small fire, trying to warm themselves. They glance up, eyes wide with fear at the sight of your rune sword, but also hope in your armor adorned with the crest of Morganhold. You offer them what aid you can: food, bandages for the injured, and reassurances of safety. They slowly open up, telling stories of pillaged villages and the absence of aid from Ethelred or the Loyalists. Renaud shares a story of a hidden Loyalist encampment near the river Thames. Okay. A safe haven for the persecuted. Hoping to garner their support and supplies, you and your party set out at dawn the following day, carefully guiding the peasants along. Alright. Let's maybe find some more companions. Maybe we can build up a little bit of a small army here. I mean, we'll see. So yeah, let's definitely lead my companions and the peasants to the Loyalist encampment near the river Thames. Now, sometimes, like earlier on in the story, I'd take more deliberate and kind of granular actions. I'm like, well, how far away is that? And, like, is it nighttime, whatever? And I've kind of moved away from that and just kind of focus on just kind of more general actions that move the story along and advance it rather than getting into granular stuff. It's very different from like an actual tabletop kind of Dungeons and Dragons style of campaign where you might stop and roll dice for some kind of intelligence check on like, oh, what is this what kind of plan is this? Or, some kind of perception checks like, hey, is it nighttime? Can I see who's there? What do they look like? Am I able to tell who this person is? We're not really getting to that kind of level of detail. I think it's possible with, the newer kind of in progress version, the evolution of the AI dungeon, which is going to be called Heroes, is being developed by Latitude, might get into that level of detail. That'll be interesting to see. But for now, this is very much more kind of like just progressing the story. So let's see what happens here. I can always click the action for the, what is the button? Continue. But I don't always like what that does. I mean, sometimes it's like, hey, it advances the story, but, oh, a month went by. Like, oh, whoa. I mean, I like it to kind of progress a little bit more in a stepwise fashion. You lead your companions and the peasants through the early morning light, navigating the winding paths toward the river Thames. A palpable sense of anticipation grows among the group as you draw nearer to the rumored Loyalist encampment. The sun rises higher in the sky, its warm rays filtering through the trees, casting dappled patterns upon the ground. After a few hours of travel, you arrive at the river Thames, and there, nestled along the banks, lies the Loyalist encampment. A mixture of tents and makeshift shelters, the encampment boasts a sizable presence. Guards posted at regular intervals nod respectfully as you and your group approach, sensing your affiliations. You're greeted by the encampment's leader, Sir Godric, a battle-hardened knight from a neighboring region. Okay. Cool, Sir Godric. So, let's greet Sir Godric respectfully. And ask him if respectfully, and I want to explain our righteous quest and ask him if the Loyalist camp would be able to care for these these peasants we rescued. Let's not use the past tense. Here I get into like the grammar and how I'm doing things, right? It's such an interesting thing. But like I said, I really wanted to be able to interpret the intent behind the language I'm using to really make sure it gets the best chance to develop the story appropriately. Respectfully greet Sir Godric, explain a righteous quest, and ask him if the Loyalist camp would be able to care for these peasants we rescued. Let's see what Sir Godric has to say. And certainly after we interact with these guys for a little bit, probably add some cards. You step forward, addressing Sir Godric with a courteous bow. Greetings, Sir Godric. I am Apollo, a simple peasant from Morganhold in Brithholm, joined by my companions Mordred, an archer of the old gods, Galahad, knight of Ormain, and Renaud, another soldier disillusioned by his senseless war. That's a funny way to put that. But hey, this is neat, right? We are on a noble quest to put an end to the tyranny of Regent Ethelred. These good folk, you continue, gesturing to the group of struggling peasants huddled near your party, are survivors from nearby villages pillaged by Ethelred's forces. We kindly request sanctuary for them and any support your loyalists might provide to alleviate their suffering. And I'm going to ask him again. I didn't really get an answer yet. Sometimes it just kind of moves forward in the context of it, but I'm going to prod that question. Don't really want to advance that. So I'm going to ask Sir Godric if his camp can help these peasants. See if we can get a directed. I did kind of put quite a bit in that last action. I had like 3 different parts. I was greeting him, I was explaining our quest, and asking a bit of help for these peasants. So that might have been a little bit much. Sir Godric listens intently to your request, his eyes scanning the peasants before turning back to you. Your quest is noble, Apollo, and I admire your bravery. We shall provide food, shelter, and medical care for these peasants. Our healer, Lady Eveline, will tend to their wounds, and we will ensure they are safe within our camp. Relief washes over you, grateful for Sir Godric's generosity. Your journey has saved not only your own life, but the lives of many innocent people caught in the crossfire of this never-ending conflict. You spend a few days in a loyalist camp, assisting in whatever capacity you can, helping to organize supplies, cooking meals for the camp's inhabitants, and listening to the stories of villagers who suffered under Ethelred's rule. Alright, that's good. I like how that's progressing then, where we got a nice little bit of help for these peasants, and that's the kind of stuff, just kind of role playing in a story. Because I think that's good to do. Like, I'm not just kind of reading a story here. I'm actively trying to like role play how I think this character should play out. What would he do? I mean, I got this rune sword. I mean, I could certainly just run around just like, oh, okay, just like, chop this guy up and kill him, right? But that's not how I think this young man in his village in kind of like this rural area just grew up and thrust into this conflict would just act that way. He had a family and everything, seemed like probably brought up nicely, so it wouldn't make sense for this kid coming out of nowhere just start being super cold-blooded warrior. So of course it makes sense that he's going to try and help these other villagers, other peasants, from the kingdom. So I'm kind of glad we were able to take the story in that route. So I want to add a couple more cards here. We're adding one for Sir Godric. Let's see how it generates this. I'm going to get him in here into the memory for this particular story. So once a loyal knight of Ormain, now an informant for the loyalist. He also disillusioned by Ethelred corruption. It's good. It's a good guy. Alright. And Lady Eveline. That's interesting. Knowing there's a legitimate healer, I mean, that's always a good thing to know about. I mean, we already kind of used some of our powers using the orb to heal Renaud, so maybe I should check in with Renaud. Like, how are you feeling? Did we do a good job healing you? It's like, oh, these scars are going to be gross, but thanks. So Lady Eveline, once a noble woman of Ormain, now serves as a key strategist for the Loyalists. Tactical mine. Alright. Nice. And should I add one for the location? Why not? So Loyalist camp along the River Thames. That would be, let's see what, I mean, I think like that might be a good location card to add. Camp along the River Thames. Generate that one. Because it seems like it's a pretty notable location in the story here. Yeah. Alright. So we've been hanging out in the village, in this camp for a couple of days, helping somebody's the peasants, the camp inhabitants, cooking meals. I think it's time to see what Sir Godric thinks about escalating our campaign against Ethelred. He's clearly involved in the conflict in a much more pronounced way, and it's kind of a tactical sense. This is a knight, a man of warfare, a kid from a village, and every opportunity I try and roleplay with this character to seek out the advice of these wiser, more knowing figures in my group. So let's go. Ask. Seek out Sir Godric in camp. Sometimes I try and not just presume like, I'm just sitting here right by Godric at all times. It's saying several days have passed, so maybe I'm a little bit silly, but, I try and be deliberate and intentional about how I structure what I'm doing with the story, which is, hey, I'm going to find this guy and let's see if he can give me some advice on what we should do next. Ask him for advice on escalating our goal to attack and bring down the tyrant Ethelred. It's kind of vague, but I really want to see, what we might get Sir Godric to suggest here and where we can take that. I mean, I think ultimately I'd like to see if the story will take it, we can kind of get these forces together, these loyalist forces, and have some kind of unified force going to attack Ethelred. I mean, not that I should really, is it really role-playing that my character has such a strong strategic mindset on how to conduct an insurrection, engage in guerrilla warfare to take down a stronger force. Would he really know much about that? But here we are. You find Sir Godric near the camp's central fire, conversing with other knights. Approaching him, you respectfully request his guidance. Sir Godric, you begin, we seek to bring down the tyrant Ethelred, but we're aware of the complexity and danger in such a mission. Could you provide us with counsel on how best to proceed? We wish to protect the innocent and restore peace to Brithel. Well put. Sir Godric ponders your words, then responds, Ethelred is cunning and well guarded. To challenge him, you'll need a strong alliance, a strategic plan, and the element of surprise. First, gather support from other loyalists and dissenters within Ormain. Unite them under a common goal, justice and freedom. Next, gather intelligence on Ethelred's forces, movements, and vulnerabilities. Okay. So, hey, that's a pretty nice outline there on how to conduct an insurrectionary movement to bring down a stronger force that has taken over our kingdom. So thank you for that. I think what I want to say is like, hey, will you help us? Why don't I just be more direct then? Ask Sir Godric if he will join forces with us to take down Ethelred. I try and be careful of the language I use and try and avoid relying too much on idioms and colloquialisms and language like that, because some manners of speech, they just might not make sense to the AI system. These are large language models, so I mean, it can interpret quite a bit, but sometimes my sense is that just might complicate the interpretation of the intent. Sir Godric strokes his beard, contemplating your request. I am with you in spirit, Apollo, but my forces are needed here to protect these innocent souls from Ethelred's wrath. Sounds like we're getting a no. Sounds like we're getting a no from Sir Godric. However, I can provide you with a seasoned warrior. All right. Sir Cedric, who has longed for a chance to end Ethelred's tyranny. He will accompany you, and I will send messengers to other loyalist camps and dissenting factions within Ormain, rallying them to your cause. Grateful to Sir Godric's support, you accept his offer, and soon Sir Cedric joins your party. All right, well, not getting Sir Godric, but consolation prize getting Sir Cedric. I'm going to call him Cedric. Don't know anything about him. So we should find out about him. How about we do a say? Thank you, Sir Godric. We do a say, it really just kind of intersperses that into the... Alright, and it advances the story for us. Alright, so thank you, Sir Godric, you exclaim, relieved and grateful for his guidance. Sir Cedric, a seasoned warrior with a grizzled beard and sharp eyes, approaches, ready to join your cause. You exchange firm handshakes, welcoming him into your group of companions. Over the following days, your party expands as Sir Godric sends messengers to various loyalist camps, yes, and dissenting factions within Ormain. New allies pledge their support, strengthening your numbers. You meet knights, soldiers, and civilians whose lives have been torn apart by Ethelred's tyranny, each with stories that ignite your determination to end this unjust rule. The once small band of 4 grows into a formidable force, united in their righteous quest to save Brithholm from its tormentor. Alright, I really like where this is going now. Let's do a C here. I just kind of want to... see what it puts together. So we have C. We can put in a context. And what I typically do is I just take something that seems rather visual and description from the text and plug it in here. Using one of the premium modes with AI Dungeon, we have a much better image generation model that we can use. Here we go. I mean, I think that's pretty good. I like this. This is pretty nice. This is my dude here, clearly, and this is Cedric. He's the grizzled guy with the beard. I got kind of a beard going there as well. Good. Nice. Alright, so where are we at? We've got messages going out. We're getting some allies. Let's see, I want to add a card for Sir Cedric. Character. I just think the story flows better using this system. I think it really augments the memory component of the system, so that it can really keep track of what's going on. It doesn't start getting confused. As I notice here and there, every now and then, the system has... sometimes it does try and... It kind of mixes up a couple locations or people, and I let it slide. It's not a big deal. I mean, considering what it's doing, it's kind of generating a new story that I'm participating in. I mean, I think it's still pretty cool. But, adding these cards and stuff, I think enhances the memory system, so it's less likely to have those kinds of glitches. So we've got Sir Cedric in here now. He defected to the Loyalists after witnessing Ethelred's atrocities. He now trains rebels in warfare. Great. And he's on our side, which is awesome. Alright. I think now I probably want to go back to my old mentor, Mordred. Archer of the Old Gods. He's been with me from practically the beginning. After we escaped and ran off from our village that was attacked and started seeking help, we ran into Mordred out in the countryside. I wonder if that was an accident. How fortuitous was that? Just a coincidence. And he's kind of been my old mentor this whole journey so far on this quest. Let's see what he thinks to do. Ask Mordred if he thinks. Why don't I ask my companions? Because Sir Galahad, I've got several knights now in my group. We've got Renaud, Sir Galahad, Sir Cedric. These guys are presumably very capable in warfare. That's what knights are about. They could probably give us a sense if they think, hey, yeah, we're ready to go ahead and make some kind of attack, whether straight on attack or some kind of sneaky kind of infiltration to Ethelred's stronghold. See if we're ready for it. Let's just ask the group. Ask my companions if they think we are ready to continue onwards to continue onward to Ethelred's stronghold. Help if I can spell. That is essential for this. To take the fight to the enemy more directly. Let's see what my war council thinks. It's important. Delegate, seek out the advice of skilled and knowledgeable people. Clearly got those leadership qualities. You gather your companions around the campfire, the warmth radiating against the cool night air. We have grown strong and united, you say, looking at each face. Mordred, Galahad, Renaud, and Sir Cedric. Yeah, it's got them all. Let's keep it up. I believe we are ready to take the fight to Ethelred's stronghold, to confront him directly and bring an end to his tyranny. Mordred nods, his gaze steady. Ethelred's stronghold is heavily fortified, and his forces are many. But with our combined strength and the knowledge we've gained, we have a chance to succeed. Galahad and Renaud exchange determined looks, while Sir Cedric's grizzled face breaks into a grim smile. Aye, Apollo, it's time to show Ethelred that his reign of terror ends now. Nice. Everybody's like, let's go. Alright. I'm convinced. So let's do it. Alright, so... let's do a say. Excellent. Let us begin preparations at once to begin our campaign to Ethelred's stronghold. Alright, so I think that's a pretty good inflection point in the story. It kind of feels like we're getting to the closing chapter pretty soon to the arc of this story. Essentially, we've seeked out knowledge, wisdom, weapons, artifacts of power. I've built up my party of companions. We've got a lot of capable warriors. We've assembled a force of like-minded allies, and everybody's in agreement that we have what we need to go ahead and take on Ethelred. Excellent, you exclaim, a spark of determination in your eyes. Let us begin preparations at once for our campaign to Ethelred's stronghold. We've grown stronger and united, and the time has come to show Ethelred that his reign of terror ends now. Over the following days, you work tirelessly alongside your companions to ready your forces. Blacksmiths forge weapons, healers prepare supplies, and strategists draw battle plans under the flickering glow of campfires. Messengers are dispatched, and alliances strengthen as word of your campaign spreads across the war-torn realm. When all is prepared, your united force, a powerful army of knights, soldiers, and civilians, begins its long march toward Ethelred's formidable stronghold. Its high walls a daunting, yet unyielding reminder of the struggle to come. Alright, that's great. Let's do a C on that. I always like to kind of a visualization here. With the premium version, we're able to use the much nicer visual generation models, and they use kind of like a token. you get. They use up a certain amount of it. That's a token currency. Not token in the sense of an AI model token, but like a digital currency that you get as the premium version of AI Dungeon. All right, I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that looks neat. It's a neat image. I would think, it'd be likely that our army would be a little bit more ragtag. People from all over, different army and stuff, like different armor and colors and banners and things like that. But it's a pretty neat image. I like it. All right. Well, I think that is where I'm going to call it for this session. I think this is a really great kind of inflection point in the story to kind of tie things off before I begin my next session, which I think will be later this week. And that'll probably be the last chapter, I would say, in this story. I mean, unless the battle with Ethelred really carries on, we'll see. I don't really know where this is going to go. And that's kind of the neat thing with this. It's an unwritten story, near as I can tell. We're kind of making it up as we go. It's pretty incredible. So, hey, well, thank you for watching. See you at the next one. And follow the channel if you think this is interesting. We'll be talking about